Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about HubSpot. If you're hustling in the trenches to build a business or bootstrapping one of your own, let's talk about an AI-powered tool that can lighten up your workload a bit. HubSpot's Campaign Assistant is a game changer for creating marketing campaigns at scale. It quickly turns your key selling points into a cohesive pitch, which helps you deliver knockout emails, ads, and landing pages in minutes. So let Campaign Assistant take care of the campaigns so you can get back to growing your business. Work smarter, not harder at HubSpot.com/campaign-assistant.
Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, October 12th. I'm Ben Berkley here with Juliet Bennett Rylah and Lestraundra Alfred, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Today, we're going with two top stories. If you're sick of AI talk, your eyes are going to roll when we talk about Adobe's slew of new AI tools, including one that made video editors audibly gasp when it was announced. And then we'll dig into the essential question, will these tools amplify creative work or replace it? And then we'll talk about Taylor Swift again. We'll talk about her romance with football star Travis Kelce from a marketing angle. Is the NFL leaning too hard into the hoopla? But before we get to all of that, let's run through a few of the stories making headlines in the world of business and tech. The Federal Trade Commission proposed a new rule to ban hidden junk fees on purchases like concert tickets and hotel rooms that would prohibit businesses from advertising prices that leave out mandatory fees. This is a pretty big deal. Officials say bogus fees can add $80 billion a year for consumers. Birkenstock made its debut on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker BIRK, B-I-R-K, with an initial public offering of $46 a share. The IPO values the company at $8.6 billion, and that's good news for the brothers and heirs, Alex and Christian Birkenstock, whose net worth went up significantly. Now they're both worth an estimated $3.5 billion. And let's close out with McDonald's Boo Buckets. The plastic trick-or-treat pails will return October 17th, this time featuring a purple vampire option. The chain debuted a spooky Happy Meal in 1986, but took a break from 2016 until last year. And while it's back, it's not the only one in this fast food candy receptacle lane. Burger King is going to be trying out its own buckets called Trick or Heat, which is to promote its Ghost Pepper Whopper. Let's make sure we get to the essential question here. Which one of the two are you taking out with you?
McDonald's, obviously, hands down.
Agreed, definitely McDonald's.
Moving on to our first main story, Adobe. Juliet, you were in attendance at Adobe's Max event in Los Angeles on Tuesday. The company was there hyping its newest AI-drenched creative software. Love to know, what were the highlights?
Okay, well, I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to come out and say it. It was pretty good. I was really impressed. And obviously, these are like people who are experts at Adobe showing these off. They're probably way better at using these tools than I ever will be. But there are a couple things that were really awesome. In Adobe Illustrator, they have this text-to-vector thing that they're doing. And basically, you can enter a text prompt. I think one that they used was like a flat, like a 2D flat tiger, like it almost looked like a tattoo sketch of a tiger. And then it generates multiple options for you, and they're a fully editable vector. So icons, regular images, repeatable patterns, like if you wanted to make a wallpaper or something, and then you get this square of a pattern. The example they used was like planets and stars and stuff. And you're like, I don't like that planet. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to move that over there. It repeats through the entire pattern. And it was so fast. And like, I'm not a graphic designer or a video person, but like, it just seemed like, oh my God, this thing is so powerful and so quick. Other people, however, were graphic designers, video editors, illustrators, etc. So I paid attention to the things that made them ooh and ah the most. One was a tool called Retype, which is also an Illustrator. I guess if you see something cool and you're like, I love this font, what is it? AI can identify that font for you, suggest it if it finds it, suggest similar fonts, but also turn text that you have maybe used before or that you find into editable text. So you can just be like, I want to work with this, and it does it for you. And apparently, and I'm guessing you could not do that before because there were a lot of people who were like, wow. And they were like really into this. I was like, wow, this tiger that you just made looks amazing. But they were really into this font tool. And then there were other like a generative match tool where if you're like, hey, I want you to make something, but I want you to use this style here. This is my style, or these are my brand colors. It can do that for you. You can have it generative fill. You can have it fill in objects. So let's say you have a vertical photo. You want it to be horizontal. You can have it fill in the sides for you. And they were doing this with an illustrated photo, like an artsy photo of a fox in a forest. And it was just like filling in the rest of the forest. The thing that made people gasp the most, though, was, and I'm sure our podcast editors are going to hear this and say, yes, so when you're editing in Premiere, you can have all the dialogue as text, and you can use that text to edit. You can copy the text that someone says. It's like, okay, I want this clip. But you can also now use AI to find all the filler words, the ums, the uhs, highlight them all, and just get rid of them seamlessly. And that was the one where people were like losing their minds.
Well, that sounds amazing. The one thing I'm curious about, because anytime new tools like this hit the market, our first question is really always the same. Is this going to help or hurt the average worker? So what's your gut telling you when it comes to this new collection from Adobe? Like, are we going to see work made easier, or are we going to see it replaced?
I think that's going to be up to the companies that employ these graphic designers and video editors and so on and so forth. In theory, and what Adobe, of course, it's their conference. What they were really trying to drive home is these are creative tools for creative people. This is going to reduce the tedious tasks that you do, like editing out every or painstakingly removing every hair flyaway in a headshot. That's going to reduce all these tedious tasks for you. And hopefully you'll be able to explore and be creative and have more time and be more productive. And that is great. And if that happens, then that's awesome. And I think that is what AI in an ideal world would be for. You use it for inspiration. You use it for the tedious tasks that take you a really long time. The question is, what is your company going to say about that? Is your company going to say, oh, well, I can do this in Adobe Express myself. It won't be as good, but it'll be cheaper. So that's what I'm going to do. Or, hey, I saw this presentation and it should take you 3 hours instead of 6. So I'm cutting your hours or whatever. I think that's where we're going to see it, is the people who hire these people, not necessarily Adobe at all, who is presenting these tools, but the people who hire people. That's what we've seen in the Writers and Actors Guild strike. They don't want to be replaced by studios. Studios, who knows what they're going to do? The actor strike is still going on. The writers have established some guidelines with AI. So I guess we'll see what happens. I like to think of it as like if we live in a Star Trek world or if we live in a dystopian Skynet world. That's the two ways I see this playing out.
I think that's a pretty clear vision in my head of how this goes. And I know what I'm rooting for. I guess you actually did touch on one other subplot I want to talk about for a second, which is that, these tools are often framed as being empowering for non-designers and helping them kind of like, do things that they never could have seen possible. And like, I know I'm a disaster when it comes to design work, but like have had a good time playing around with some of these things. Curious how accessible these felt, having seen this like close-up glimpse at these tools. Does it like entice you to dive deeper into design?
Right. I think it depends on the tool. So Premiere, Illustrator, Photoshop, all of those tools. Even in the demos, there were words and terms being used that I, as someone who is not a designer, did not understand that people around me absolutely did. Those are things where I'm like, oh, I would have to take a class or watch a bunch of YouTube tutorials to really understand what I'm doing and make a really cool visual there. Otherwise, it would just look like crap. However, Adobe Express, which is its online editing tool, very newbie friendly. I went through a demo of that. And that is the one where I'm like, okay, if I wanted to make a flyer for, I don't know, my birthday party and put it on Facebook, I could do that. I could make that happen. And that has a lot of the same generative AI tools. It's just not the super advanced things that you're going to see if you're a, graphic designer at some large brand.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I guess we will see how this one plays out. But for now, we're actually going to move on to our other top story today, which is Taylor Swift. Who else? So Les, you write The Lead, which is our sibling newsletter on marketing. And this week you dove into kind of the NFL and how they've got this all-in strategy capitalizing on this romance between Taylor Swift and one of the league star players. What are you seeing?
Like most of us on the internet, I think we've seen over the past few weeks just this frenzy that's really covering this relationship, which on one hand is not necessarily a new thing. Part of Taylor Swift's brand has often involved the people that she's dating. She's been in a lot of high-profile relationships throughout her career. A lot of her music has been inspired by her high-profile relationships. So her getting media attention for a romantic relationship she's in is not necessarily surprising, but what I noticed was how much the NFL has taken this relationship like a dog with a bone and has been dragging it quite a bit. So I wanted to take a look from a marketing lens at why the NFL was doing that.
And I mean, I guess we know like Swifties they're a powerful bunch. Often I feel like we talked about how kind of frighteningly so they activate and they just like, they're bringing their money. We're about to see, I believe tomorrow is the release of her concert movie, which is going to bring in 9+ figures. So what are you seeing as like a benefit to the NFL here?
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of that, Taylor Swift has one of the most dedicated fan bases in pop culture. Whatever she does, her fans are interested, they're right there, and they're engaged. And I think that the NFL sees this as an opportunity to expand its audience, ultimately to get more advertising revenue. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. So if the NFL can find an opportunity to engage with a more female audience and a younger audience, which is a little bit different than its typical audience, then it can expand what kind of advertisers it works with. And so I think the NFL has seen Taylor Swift as kind of an opportunity to get more folks engaged in the game so that they can hopefully appeal to more advertisers.
I mean, very, very anecdotally here, but, I've seen the NFL on social media changing its profile bio and pictures and kind of just like going ham on this thing. And I have also then seen a lot of fans kind of finding it annoying. And like there is this risk of driving away their core audience who's not necessarily, they're there for the sport. They're not there for this sideshow. Is there like an all PR is good PR thing happening here, or is there actual downside potentially for the league?
I think that if there is a downside, it's probably would be more for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce as opposed to the league. Even though hardcore NFL fans may be annoyed by the coverage, I don't think they're going to abandon their favorite teams, their favorite players, or, their Sunday, Monday night game rituals. But I do think that if there continues to be a lot of media coverage and hoopla, then people could get a little burned out of like the two main players involved.
Well, we will see how this all-in strategy continues to play out because Lord knows it's not going away so long as this relationship continues. So good luck, young love. We got to root for it. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Edgar Shupiano, and our executive producer is Darren Clarke. Got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Let me tell you about a show that I've been loving lately. It's called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by the incredible John Lee Dumas. It's available now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. I'm a big fan of this podcast. It has energy, it has value, and it's all about learning about entrepreneurship. I was just listening to an episode the other day. JLD interviewed Jay Rogers, who was such a wealth of information. He kind of went into how entrepreneurship chooses you. You don't necessarily choose it, and that failure only happens when you stop trying to win. A lot of gems in this one. So I highly recommend checking out that particular episode along with the rest. So go listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts. Hey guys, if you listen to the Hustle Daily Show on Google Podcasts, we want to let you know that the option will no longer be available pretty soon. Google is sunsetting its podcast app sometime in early 2024 in favor of YouTube Music, and we want to give you a heads up before it's too late since that time's almost here. The Hustle Daily Show is available everywhere and anywhere that you listen to podcasts like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're using YouTube Music, we are there as well. If you're an Android fan, there are plenty of apps like Overcast, Pocket Casts, Player FM, and more. So just search for us wherever you decide to listen to your favorite podcasts.